What up? T-Bob here.
And Jake as well.
And look at you. You done stumbled upon little OTB Saints, where we bring you all the latest black and gold coverage.
Who are the Saints going to draft? Who's going to be their quarterback? What does the salary cap look like? All that information and more.
Hope you enjoy it. Like, subscribe. So here's how I want to handle the beginning of today's show. First, I want to look at the game yesterday. Then I want to look at the kind of the conundrum of the offseason, what changes you would make, and then maybe touch on some of the drama from the end of the game. I don't want to lead with the drama, though it does bear to be talked about. So yesterday, the Saints beat down the Falcons. What was the final score, like 47-17?
48-17.
And to me, the thing I kept thinking about was what a kind of tantalizing glimpse of what this team could have been, right? And who you hoped they would have been, because they looked fantastic yesterday. Derek Carr looked like a $40 million quarterback. The weapons that we were so excited about looked as versatile and as complete and as threatening as we thought they would. You had a rookie running back shining, a rookie wide receiver shining. The O-line held up well. Alontae Taylor getting another pick. The defense shutting out the Falcons in the second half. So much good. So where was this all season long, right? How should you feel about it? And that's where I think it becomes a bit complicated. The Saints finished very strong. They won 4 of their last 5. Now, granted, 2 of these wins were against the Panthers and the Giants, but you at least dominated those teams. Well, I guess the Panthers, you kind of dominated the score. It was just an ugly game all around. But the Bucs and the Falcons were the other 2, and those are teams that you had already lost to. And those are 2 games in which you pretty much dominated and handled them beginning to end. So you win 4 of your last 5. In the first 11 games, Derek Carr broke a passer rating of 100 4 times. In the last 6 games, he did it 5 times. If you look at the 5 games in which you won 4 of the last 5, he had 14 touchdowns to just 2 interceptions. And so there's no, it's not by accident that suddenly when your quarterback starts playing football at that level that you end up winning those games. And look, if you wanted to go full anti-Carr, you could say that, this didn't take place as the best competition. And in many ways, this is just the season-long version of the garbage time stats that Derek Carr has always padded his numbers with. And if you want to paint it that way, I think there's maybe kernels of truth there. But the fact is that, the playoffs were on the line Sunday. And if a couple of LSU receivers hadn't significantly hurt the Panthers' chances, the winner of this game was going to win the division. So it wasn't full garbage time. This was not an eliminated, nobody cared, and everybody was just trying to go through the motions sort of game. And so I believe in credit where credit's due, right? And I believe in criticism when criticism's due. We've always said this on this show. And if Derek Carr and the Saints had played at this level the entire season, not only would they 100% have won the NFC South, but they would be a team that would actually be exciting about maybe someone that can win a playoff game or 2 and make some noise heading into the playoffs. We'll get to the problem in a second, because therein kind of lies the problem. As I said, this is a tantalizing glimpse of what could and arguably should have been. And so the problem is, I just don't know that I can sit here and give you the benefit of the doubt for another entire offseason, right? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. You ain't going to fool me 3 times. And I've already been fooled twice, where I've sat here for the entire offseason and tried to look on the bright side of every move that was made and make it make sense. And, okay, I see the vision. And this was the vision. But for whatever reason, the vision didn't come about as often as it should have this year. And so I can't sit here, as good as the ending was, as much fun as it was to watch the Falcons, your arch rival, get embarrassed yesterday in the Superdome in more ways than one. I can't sit here and give you the benefit of the doubt for another entire offseason, especially because, and this is where this sucks, but this is how you have to look at things. You have to look at things holistically. The year was a failure. Full stop. It was a failure. You were 100% the most talented team in this division, and you should have won the NFC South. And again, I don't want to beat a dead horse because I know we've been talking about this for weeks, but like as we evaluate this season, we have to do these things and re-explore these lines of thought and conversation that we've gone down. And yes, you are 100% the best team in this division and should have won. You let Baker Mayfield and a Bucs team that we were making fun of before the year because of how goofy their practices look end up walking away with the division title. And that means something. It still means, if you've gotten to the point where winning a division title means nothing to you, then you've maybe gotten a bit spoiled. The other issue is you're already the oldest team in the NFL, and it feels as if you're probably just going to run it back and everyone's just going to be older. And then finally, the other kind of, kernel stuck in your teeth is that there's still really nothing on the resume for either Dennis Allen or Derek Carr to believe that they can be a great NFL combination over the course of an entire season. We saw a spurt here at the end. We saw glimpses littered throughout. But there is a distinct lack of consistency on both their resumes that I cannot sit here and say I just expect to change out of nowhere. Again, fool me once, fool me twice. You're not going to fool me thrice. So what needs to be done this offseason? And boys, this is where I'll maybe open it up to you a little bit here if you want to start thinking about. Because look, if you're rolling with Derek Carr again, then obviously offensive line is paramount, right? I mean, you saw the success of when he's protected. He is, again, we talked about he's not a quarterback that's going to be make up for too many of his line's blemishes, but if he's protected, he can be pretty damn good. But even the offensive line thing's a bit odd because I think that actually ties into the OC. And you're not firing Dennis Allen, right? All the reporting has said that that is not going to happen. You go from 7-10 to 9-8. Granted, I feel you. It's with a much easier schedule, and you can argue that 9-8's fine, but there were moments in there that overshadow the 9-8, like blowing an 18-point lead against the Packers at the end of the game, or some of the embarrassing performances you turned in during that slump in the middle, some of the questionable ways in which you handled the media throughout the year in terms of calling out some players, defending others, or even the fact that your players basically said, nah, fam, we ain't listen to you, and we're going to score a touchdown on Sunday, right? It's like, I get it. Dennis Allen is by no means not a bona fide success of a year, but I do believe that the Saints are bringing it back, so he's safe. So he's not going to get touched. Well, something has to happen, right? You can't have a failure of a season and no change take place. And then we arrive at Pete Carmichael. And again, Pete Carmichael is a microcosm of how this Saints season ended, a complicated picture in and of itself where he was absolute garbage at the beginning of the year, the worst play caller in the NFL by a country mile, and then credit to Carmichael. He did something that, as we get older, is all too rare. He changed. He changed. He saw that he was doing some things that were obviously bad and head scratching, or really not doing things, right? There was no pre-snap motion. There was no play action. It took Nick Underhill pointing it out in the World's Not Football article. And again, correlation doesn't equal causation, but it did pick up right after that talk started to gain steam. But then he started incorporating these elements. And again, that's not to be taken for granted. People are stubborn, and especially the older you get, the more set in your ways you get, and you think, no, trust me, I'm right. This guy doesn't know more than me. Nope, not going to change. But Pete Carmichael did change, and he got significantly better. And even after the game, Eric McCoy, like, okay, so ask yourself this. How did this Saints O-line, which just kept getting more and more injured, start playing better and better and better? Because they were being put in better positions to succeed. Even after the game, Eric McCoy talked about how they started playing better at the end of the year and specifically talked about the increased usage of play action, how he thought they should have been doing more of it earlier. And so I credit you, Pete Carmichael, for changing. Unfortunately, that change highlights the original sin. And Carmichael's original sins in this case are so obvious that it's almost unforgivable that they were ever there in the first place. Like, you can't have an entire offseason with this team and have that be your game plan for the first half of the year. In an age where Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay and others have guys' heads spinning pre-snap, you can't forgive the stagnation that you approached pre-snap alignment with. And so, and then finally, I mean, mainly also, in a season of failure, someone has to pay the price, right? Someone's head has to roll. The apathy of the fans has to be combated. And the way to do that is to fight that with blood. And honestly, unfortunately, this is the same conversation that we've had with Pete Carmichael for now 3 years. And so again, things get better this year? Absolutely. And Pete Carmichael deserves a ton of credit for improving as much as he did during the year. Unfortunately, I think there's just too many other factors in place where most likely that is the head that will roll. Wow, just amazing black and gold takes right there, Jake.
I don't think I've ever heard any takes that are better than the two guys that just gave you that take.
And you can keep getting them by going ahead and liking, subscribing, ringing the bell to get notifications when we post. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next OTB Saints.